The time is 6 p.m. and the Denison City Council is now in session. This evening we are honored to have with us 4 members of the Texas Association of Future Educators. We have with us Sophia Huffman. Sophia can play the piano, the bass, the ukulele, and the guitar. Very accomplished young lady, yes. And we have Corey Townsend, who is a member of the Yellow Jacket TV program, and he runs the video board. If you haven't seen that in the stadium, it's pretty impressive. We also have with us Raquel Huffman, who is an amazing freelance artist, and Hope Rhodes, who was just crowned our 2021 Homecoming Queen. Immediately after Jeff Humphreys, pastor of Parkside Baptist Church, leads us in our invocation, these bright young people will lead us in our pledge of allegiance.
Let's pray together. So, Lord, we thank you for this great city that you have given us the privilege to be a part of, Lord. We thank you. We know it's a gift from you, Lord. And, Lord, we know that the Bible says that the gifts you give us are our opportunity to steward them in ways that honor you. So we pray for our council tonight, Lord, that you would lead them and guide them, Lord, to steward us in a way that makes the most of this great opportunity that we have today. Lord, all the things that are coming, Lord, we just pray that you would help us to be in front of them and to approach them, Lord, with just a wonderful spirit of excitement, Lord, and knowing that there are so many good things in front of us. Thank you for this week, being able to see so many people in the streets of our city walking and fellowshipping and enjoying each other. We look forward to more and more days of that here in this great city of Denison. We love you so much and thank you for this opportunity. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, when you're ready. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Well, this evening we have a number of recognitions. Tomorrow is World Teachers Day, where the world will honor those who have chosen to be educators. If any of you have ever heard me speak to our educators before, you know, we have a great relationship with the DISD. In fact, what we do as a city, we could not do if it were not for that partnership. So it is going to be my pleasure to read a proclamation, and if Dr. Kirkbride, Dr. Scott, and Jana Wood, who is a 3rd grade teacher at Bays Elementary, and Arthur Munoz, who is the technology robotics teacher at Denison High School, and Natalie Hicks, who is the principal at Mays Elementary. If you will join me at the podium, we will read this proclamation.
Madam Mayor, Arthur couldn't make it. He had another commitment in that. So we'll honor him anyway.
Well, that's right. We'll honor him anyway. Whereas, no matter where you are in the world, chances are that you had a teacher that you still remember for the positive impact that they made in your life. I do. Someone that helped you finally grasp a challenging concept or experience a learning moment that defined your classroom experience. And whereas, every year on October 5th, we celebrate World Teachers Day, which has been held every year on October 5th since 1994. It is a time to remember those special educators who supported us when we were students and show gratitude to those who inspired us in the classroom. The theme for this year's World Teachers Day is Teachers at the Heart of Education Recovery. And whereas the City of Denison's future strength depends on providing a high-quality education to all students, teachers' quality matters more to student achievement than any other school-related factor. Teachers spend countless hours preparing lesson plans and supporting students. And whereas our Denison Independent School District teachers have demonstrated great resilience, adaptability, and creativity during the COVID-19 crisis, and our community acknowledges and appreciates their role and important contributions in educating the children of this community. And whereas #TeachersCan is a statewide movement supported by more than 125 partnering businesses, organizations committed to elevating the success of Texas. Now, therefore, I, Janet Gott, Mayor, and on behalf of the City Council of the City of Denison, Texas, joins #TeachersCan and its partnering entities across Texas in celebrating World Teachers Day and hereby proclaimed October 5th, 2021 to be City of Denison Teachers Day. Signed, Janet Gott, Mayor, Denison, Texas. Thank you so much for all that you do. All of you.
Appreciate it very much.
Thank you. And who would like to have this?
The teachers.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Oh, we're gonna get a picture here.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations, Dan.
It has never been more important than now that we safeguard our cyberspace. And we have a team that does just that, who works diligently every day to safeguard us. Where's Josh? Okay, Josh, come on.
Yeah.
Come on, team. Let us brag on you. This actually is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, the month of October. So it seems appropriate that we issue this proclamation. Whereas our nation is under a constant and ever-increasing threat from malicious cyber actors, ransomware attacks have disrupted hospitals, schools, police departments, fuel pipelines, city and county governments, food suppliers, and small businesses, delaying essential services and putting the lives and livelihoods of Americans at risk. Any disruption, corruption, or dysfunction of our vital infrastructure can have a debilitating effect on national and local economic security, public health, and our everyday safety. And whereas Cybersecurity Awareness Month was launched by the National Cybersecurity Alliance and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security in October 2004 as a broad effort to help all Americans stay safer and more secure online. Since its inception, Cybersecurity Awareness Month has elevated the central role that cybersecurity plays in our local security and economy. And whereas the theme for Cybersecurity Awareness Month 2021 is Do Your Part, #BeCyberSmart. The theme empowers individuals and organizations to own their role in protecting their part of cyberspace. The City of Denison recognizes that it has a vital role in identifying, protecting its citizens from, and responding to cyber threats that may have significant impact to our individual and collective security and privacy. And whereas the National Cybersecurity Alliance and the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency has named the City of Denison a Cybersecurity Awareness Month champion organization. Champions include companies and organizations of all sizes, schools and school districts, colleges and universities, nonprofits and government entities. We recognize the City of Denison's Information Technology Department for their dedication to promoting a safer, more secure, and more trusted internet for not only our employees, but also our citizens. Now, therefore, I, Janet Gott, as mayor and on behalf of the city council, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2021 as Cybersecurity Awareness Month and encourage individuals and organizations to own their role in protecting their part of cyberspace. If everyone does their part, our interconnected world will be safer and more resilient for everyone. Signed, Janet Gott, Mayor, Denison, Texas. Guys, thank you so much for all that you do to keep us safe. All right. We also are very fortunate that we live in a city and we work in an organization that recognizes that our employees, our team members, are our most valuable asset. So we have some very special recognitions to make tonight of individuals who have achieved specific goals in their tenure with the city of Denison. So, Miss Amy?
So tonight we recognize those that have had a significant milestone in the last quarter. So first we will start with 5 years of service. We have Andrew Baldridge. We've got a crowd in the back that will be making an entry.
Andrew, congratulations.
And Andrew, if you'll stay up here, we're going to get a photo with everyone. He is unable to be here tonight, but we do want to recognize Jed Carson, who's a member of Denison Fire Rescue. We also have Brendan McLeod with 5 years of service.
And then congratulations.
Appreciate you. Thanks, appreciate it. Oh, Brent, thank you.
With 15 years of service, we have Paul Graxiola.
Paul, congratulations and thank you for your service.
Thank you very much.
Chris Kuhn.
They all stood out in the
I
hall.
know. They're just gentlemen.
Chris, thank you so much for your service.
And Shane Shootman.
Shane?
Shane.
Shane, thank you so much, sir, for your service. All right.
With 20 years of service, Aaron Mallory.
Aaron, thank you for your service.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
And with 25 years of service, Robbie Carmen.
Robbie, thank you so much for your
Thank you.
service. All right. We're gonna have to. We're gonna have to. Here we go. At this point in each council meeting, there is time set aside for citizens who wish to speak on any action item listed on the agenda. In order to speak, you must fill out a request to speak card before we get to this point in our meeting. You must fill out a card and give it to the City Clerk, I have 6 cards. Chris, is that all you have received? Okay. Just so that you know, you're limited to 3 minutes, and you must address action items listed on the agenda, nothing other than what is included in the agenda. Item 5C. Okay. Normally, what we do is we allow the public comments at this point in time. B and 5C we will hold until we address those public hearings. We also have 3 cards who have asked to speak regarding 6A. I'll ask you when I recognize you if you'll come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please. Jerry Wren.
Yes, ma'am. My name's Jerry Wren. I live at 1800 South Maurice and have been there for the last 32 years. I also own the lot property at 1415 Brock Street. Okay, I'll get to this. I was born in 1956 here in Denison, and I was here until 1973. I got out in 1978 after doing my years in the Navy. The KD sent me to San Antonio, where I stayed until 1988. In my youth, I watched as Main Street went from 4 lanes with parallel parking to a serpentine fiasco. I was also here when it went from a 2-lane road back to a 2-lane road with head-end parking. Now the city wants to further limit businesses or restricting them by delegating them away from high traffic areas, i.e. High 75. Guess what? Just like the Serpentine Road, in the future, somebody's going to be asking, whose bright idea was it to do this? Let's face it. And guess what? Let's face it. Businesses pay more in property taxes than a house does. It's just a fact. Think about this for a minute. I watched a former mayor who wanted a building gone, and he said, look at what we can do with this property. Look at what we can do. Think of the opportunities. It's right down here on the end of Main Street.
Mr. Wren, excuse me. What are you wishing to speak regarding?
I am regarding the zoning changes. Okay. And I'm giving some history on this, is what I'm doing. I will get to the point.
Well, you have 3 minutes. So.
Okay. We watched the mayor tear down a building. Said, we're going to do something with it. It's sitting down on the end of Main Street. Ain't happened yet. The mayor that followed him wanted another building gone. Now, I don't know about the shape of the building, but I know the building was there, and I know it had a private owner. It cost the city a lot of money in court to have it demolished. I don't know what it was paying in taxes, but it was probably more than what the empty lot's paying right now. And the promises of better things to come are ringing pretty hollow right now. You don't want business in, you want a bedroom community. Well, a bedroom community is not going to finance the plans that you have on the drawing board. You have to have industry. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Philip Jones. Mr. Jones, would you state your name and address for the record, please, sir?
Philip Jones, 2020 North US Highway 75 in Denison. It's a classic of Texoma. I've had to learn a lot about city government in the last couple of months, and anyways, I'm here to oppose strongly the highway overlay additional restrictions that's on the agenda tonight. I even looked up what you're proposing for new auto dealers, instead of being by right, to be a conditional use permit. So I went and looked up what a conditional use permit is. It's a zoning exception that allows you to use your property in non-conforming ways. So you guys say that you want to support the businesses coming in, but you want it to be through a CUP. I understand you want control. There's other ways to do that. The CUP has long-lasting effects. I know lending institutions, if there's restrictions on the property, if we go to sell it, they've got to get reapproved for a CUP. If for some reason the property's repossessed, a new owner takes over. Now you guys are all for it, and I understand you love Classic and the other family. But you guys may not be here in 10, 15 years. So what you do now has an impact. It has an impact on our property value, has an impact on the value of our business. We're about to put, well, it's on hold right now, invest $30 million into this community. But, with restrictions, is it a smart business person to do that? We'll see. On your when this was last brought up for city council, you guys tabled it to the September meeting, wanting more input from P&Z. I've been to every P&Z meeting since, and this has not been brought up at all. I know you guys said knowledge is key, the more knowledge you have. I know you're working on it behind the scenes, but it has not been up for P&Z for public input. And the other thing I've heard is car dealerships don't generate a lot of tax money for the city. I know you guys are doing backflips over Chick-fil-A, which I am too. I love Chick-fil-A. But I think what the short-sightedness of that is, we don't charge sales tax to the city does not get the sales tax from a new car, but they do on all the service. But the city does get sales tax for everything we buy, and we buy a lot of stuff. We also support a lot of the community involvement. We're well over $1 million in the short time we've been here, just supporting community. So anyways, I'll wrap that up with, we would either table this for another meeting or take it to where it's not a CUP if there's another way to go through plan development for this, for the highway overlay district.
Okay. Mr. Jones, can we address just a couple of the things that you stated, just to clarify a couple of things?
It's your meeting.
So a conditional use permit, I think you said that someone who buys the property has to then apply for a conditional use permit. Well, actually, by law, a conditional use permit can go with the property, so rather than with the owner. So if a conditional use permit was issued for the property, then when the property is sold, the conditional use permit is still in place.
That's without any changes, right? So if there's any additions or add-ons, that would have to go back through a CUP. So if we were to sell it,
No.
then, okay.
And yes, sir, we do value Classic Chevrolet. We certainly do,
Yeah.
and we are very happy
Right.
that Classic is here and chooses to continue to grow here. The new Classic location is grandfathered in. That process has already begun. It's grandfathered, and that is being done through a plan development so that Classic can create what they're wishing to create on that
Right.
corner. And we're very, very supportive of that and have been all along and have worked with Classic to make this,
Correct.
bring it to the point where it is today. You said this is about control. It isn't about control, it's about planning. We get one chance as a community to plan the highway overlay district. That we get one chance to do that.
Absolutely.
And so using a conditional use permit does not prohibit things from coming. It just allows them to be planned. That's from the city standpoint and from the investor standpoint. And that's not a negative thing. It's a vehicle that allows us to plan to get to the community of choice that we all want to have.
But there's
So-
also other ways to do that besides a CUP.
I'm sorry.
There's other ways to handle that, which it doesn't put a restriction on that property. It's only used for that condition. There's other ways through plan development, which we're going through now, because we were using aluminum panels is what Chevy requires. So we have to do a plan development. That we're going through that process already. I mean, I don't think that limits the property as much as a CUP does. And again, I'm learning all this very fast.
Well, I think we all are.
Yeah.
Sir, I think we're all learning the ins and outs of all of this, yes.
Right.
Actually, if there was now correct me if I'm wrong, Julie, if you make application for a conditional use permit, the development then can still be done via plan development, right?
Yes, you could have both, yes.
So
Right, I mean, but, I mean, the CUP is gonna add, I think P and Z put it, 60 days is probably what's gonna add to the build time. That's not as big of a deal. The bigger issue is the restrictions you're putting on that property. And you're doing it for all the property. And there's a whole lot more I can go into about car dealerships. There can't be another Chevy, I mean, they're not running to town to build up all down both sides of the highway. So the CUP just puts additional restrictions. And from the customer, it is more control is what it, and you have one way to get it right, but it doesn't have to be, like I said, through a CUP, which is the strictest of the issues.
do you want to address that?
Well, there are multiple tools for land use control, but the process to get a CUP is the same as to get plan development. It goes to the Planning and Zoning Commission and the council, so it shouldn't take any longer either way. The conditional use permit ordinance can specify whether the permit runs with the owner or runs with the property. When it runs with the property, then it doesn't matter who the owner is. The use granted by that permit can remain, whether the first owner keeps it or they sell it to a subsequent owner.
Right. And you've got, I think on the agenda tonight, that you've got a business coming to change hours. If at some point Texas eliminates the blue law, we want to be open on Sundays with a conditional use permit, I've got to come reapply for that. I can't just, open on Sundays because the state allows it now.
Well, that's only if your conditional use permit ordinance restricts your hours. It probably wouldn't with a car dealership, but with dance halls and alcohol, it's common that hours are in the conditional use permit.
We just think the city should be looking for ways to invite businesses, not push them away.
And trust me, Mr. Jones, there is no intent in pushing businesses away, none whatsoever. We're trying to make sure that when Classic AAA is built, then what goes in next to it will make it better, not impact it negatively. So that is the whole intent of the ordinance.
But you're only restricting autos, boats, and motorcycles.
That's my conditional use permit.
Yes,
If you
that's
look
the
at
only
rest-
portion of it I'm talking about.
If you look at the rest of the ordinance, many other things are prohibited
Right, and I agree
to be
with that.
able to be built there.
Yeah, we don't need a tire retreading.
And that's
on
the
that.
reason that we put those as a conditional use permit, because we do want them to come. That is what we want. We want them to come and be part of our community.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Dallas Hayden, state your name and address for the record, please.
My name's Dallas Hayden, 1204 West Walker. I appreciate all the time and the effort and everything you guys have put into this proposal. And I notice there are some major changes, and I want to build on that gentleman's point. These new citywide CUP requirements seem to apply to a lot of businesses that actually weren't previously affected. So these businesses only have 3 days' notice. Denison Motors, Classic Chevy, Pro Custom Cycles, Carter Motor Company, Roy Gladen. This is a major zoning change. These businesses had a previous by right use, and that is being converted now to a CUP. A lot of them are not here today, maybe because they didn't know. So that's one issue, and I'm worried that affects the law if this is passed, and could make it vulnerable to challenges. The other thing I want to say is the CUP process has an issue, and that it has a 6-month discontinuation provision. So, God forbid, if your building is a fire, insurance takes a year to pay out, you lose your CUP, and then what do? If the council changes and you lose support for your business, you could be stuck. The other problem is that this doesn't change the issue with retail shops adjacent to sensitive historic sites, Travelers Hotel, that sort of thing. And office district restrictions affect people like my friend, Lois on Austin Avenue. They've been here for decades. They live in, their house is in the office district. So that would go non-conforming, my understanding. Also, I know a wonderful lady on Main Street, and she's also being impacted. She lives in a converted dentist office. She put a lot of money into it, and she would be going non-conforming. This doesn't seem to make an exception for that. The planned development's no exception because it's a 3-acre minimum acreage requirement. So I just believe that's a major problem, and frankly, it seems to me kind of like a taking. PDs, again, are not a solution, and there isn't currently a problem with density in the residential, in the office district. RV and event hall restrictions continue, and they're very limited here. There is an event hall on Main Street that would be converted to a CUP. The tire shop would be affected on Main Street. That's, I believe, just knocked out totally. So I really do appreciate your time, and I'm not trying to, just be a complainer. And I really appreciate everything, but there are significant issues, remaining. And there are issues if this is not compliant with the Texas Local Government Code and is challenged. There are businesses that open under these new provisions. If this thing gets knocked out later, it may go non-conforming. So it just makes me really concerned as an investor in the area. So anyway, that's my spiel. So I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Consent agenda.
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
There is a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Hander and a second by Councilmember Crawley. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Item 5A, receive a report, hold a discussion, and conduct a public hearing and take action on an ordinance changing the zoning of one lot from the Neighborhood Services District to the Single-Family 5 SF5 district located at 528 West Florence Street. Case number 2021-101Z. Mr. Medina.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you. This is the subject property here outlined in red. We have South Myrick Avenue running north to south and West Florence running east to west. As you can see, the subject property is currently colored pink, which on this layer right here is the Neighborhood Services Zoning District. We believe at one point it might have been a neighborhood service type use at this location, maybe even like a light retail type use. However, here's an aerial, and right now it's currently a house that is being rented out, and I think, or will be rented out. So the applicant's requesting to rezone this property to single-family 5 to bring it into compliance with the zoning ordinance. If we also look at adjacent property uses, it's predominantly engaged in a single-family type use. So city staff recommends approval, and the Planning and Zoning Commission also recommended approval on September 28th. I believe the applicant is also here, ma'am.
Questions for Mr. Medina? This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on behalf of this agenda item? There being none, the public hearing is closed. Discussion from council? A motion.
Mayor, I move to approve the ordinance changing the zoning of subject property from the Neighborhood Services District to the Single Family 5 SF5 District.
Second.
There is a motion by Councilmember Crawley and a second by Councilmember Doty. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Item 5B, receive a report, hold a discussion, conduct a public hearing, and take action on an ordinance adopting a conditional use permit amending the hours and days of operation for Red Rock Saloon located at 123 West Woodard Street, case number 2021-125 CUP, Bill Medina.
Thank you. Here's the subject property outlined in yellow. This is 123 West Woodard, also known as Red Rock Saloon. Their current hours of operation are Thursday through Saturday, 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. That's with their current existing conditional use permit, and the applicant is requesting an alteration to those days and hours of operation to Sunday through Wednesday, 6 p.m. to 12 a.m., and Thursday through Saturday, 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. Again, here's a recap of or a summary. City staff recommends approval, and the Planning and Zoning Commission also recommended approval on September 28th.
Questions for Mr. Medina? This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on behalf of this agenda item? Ms. Zapata, would you like to come forward, please, and give your name and address for the record?
Hello, my name is Jenna Zapata, and I reside at 1600 Bells Drive. My family and I own and operate Zigzag Galleries located at 125 West Woodard, so it's that white building right to the left of the saloon. We have concerns about this request to expand the Red Rock Saloon business hours. Originally were approved from 3 days to now 7 days a week, along with increasing their hours of operation. We are a family-friendly oriented business, hosting art shows for all ages, free art classes for kids, and hosting other family-friendly events as well. We have also been nationally recognized by American Eagle for our art activism programs within our community. Red Rock has been operating against their originally approved hours of 8 p.m. to 2 a.m., hosting events starting as early as 6 p.m. on weekdays. They perform sound checks during the day, sometimes playing music not suitable for young children that can be heard through the walls of our business and outside from the street parking. Being a bar and nightclub, their audience obviously is targeted for ages 21 and above. They have had signage posted on their windows stating, quote, "Come classy, leave trashy," left up that we have had parents complain about. In addition to live music, they have also hosted male dancer shows that they described as, quote, "an intensely exciting sex god ab party that will drive you wild," end quote. Doors to this event also opened against the original approved hours at 7 p.m. on Friday. We have also had instances of their customers who were lined up outside waiting to get as well, and along with being a bar, people smoke cigarettes and stuff and creates an environment negatively during our operating hours, which are 12 to 6 p.m. The purpose of listing these events is not to discriminate at all against their business, but to provide a picture of an environment that obviously comes along with being a nightclub. Allowing them to open earlier would collide with our operating hours. Ideally, we would like to request that the City Council keep their original hours from Thursday through Saturdays from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m., or, as a compromise, allow them to expand their days of operation while keeping the same hours that were previously approved. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Jenna, what are your operating hours?
I operate 12 to 6, Tuesday through Saturday. So when they open at 6 p.m., we can hear the music and stuff from the street and things like that.
Any council have questions for Ms. Zapata? Thank you. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak on behalf of this agenda item? Yes, please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Chris and Diana Jenkins, 1067 South 9th Avenue, Denison. We're the owners of Red Rock Saloon, and we have not been operating out of our hours. We have the email from Mr. Medina through the end of the year where we can open at 6 p.m. on Thursdays. And with her closing at 6 p.m., I don't see what the problem is if we open at 6 p.m.
So you said you have not been operating outside of your hours, but your hours are 8 to...
I got
and
the
you open
approval
at
through
6?
the end of the year from Mr. Medina. I have the email I can pull up that they approved Thursdays for us to open at 6 p.m.
Okay. Council? Any questions?
Mr. Medina, is that something that we approved?
I'd like to go back and look at that email. I believe the original conditional use permit allowed the city manager or their designee to make a certain amount of hours or day changes to their CUP within a calendar year. And if I recall, I think that might have been the scenario. And to make permanent changes for later down the road or consistent changes, that's why they're pursuing a CUP today, is to make those changes permanent and not just on a temporary basis with the city manager's approval.
I think the original intent of those, I think it was 7 times per year. I wasn't on the council, but I was in the audience that day.
You're correct.
Was so that y'all could join festivals or different events like that. Had it ever been utilized before? Have y'all ever tried to? No? Okay.
Do you have it pulled up?
Here's one of them that said we could open at noon for that benefit for September 7th, but that benefit actually got canceled by the people.
So yeah, there was approval for an additional day at the benefit, or for this benefit on the 7th. To be completely honest, I don't remember ever approving blanket approval for all Thursdays from whatever date till the end of the year. It would have been only a specific instance or during particularly identified events.
So, do you test your music before in the afternoons when?
Load in for our bands are always 5:30. That's when they start bringing their equipment in. And sound check normally starts at 7 o'clock. Now, there has been once in a blue moon, maybe once or twice in 3 years that we've actually started earlier than that because we had more than one band that we had to sound check and be, done with before we open at 8 o'clock.
Okay, so you were operating outside of your.
No, band load in.
Band load in.
The
We're
band
closed to
loads
the
in.
public, yeah. The band just comes in and gets their equipment set up and everything. We have to do that before we open up and let's start letting the public in.
Okay, so it does seem that it would create an issue for the business next door to you. If you open at 6 and you are testing your music prior to 6, then that would appear that it would be an issue for the business next door to you, so.
Well, during the weekdays, we don't have bands. We only have bands on Fridays and Saturdays.
And we don't open till 8 on Fridays and Saturdays.
But you were requesting to open at 6.
Yes.
Yes.
So, I go back to my point.
I got you.
If she is open until 6 and you are open at 6 on Fridays and Saturdays, and your band starts tuning up, then that has an opportunity to negatively impact the business next door to you.
I could see that on Fridays and Saturdays. Yes, Thursdays we do karaoke. There's no band or anything like that. It's just basically push a button and go. Like Sunday through Thursday, we don't have bands. It's karaoke. I might do an acoustic show if people are into that. But as far as full bands, there won't be any full bands. Sunday through Thursday. It'll only be Friday and Saturdays for full band.
I like the compromise idea where we expand the days but not the hours. I think would allow y'all to get a lot more time in there date-wise. You would get, you're only open 3 days right now, so you would add 4 more. But I think it would allow us to not have that overlap or that risk of overlap that would still keep the rest of that district going like it has been. And that would be my suggestion, is if we expanded the days but not the hours.
Well, what if we compromise to 7 p.m. because you're gone at 6? Is that correct?
Yes.
So if we allowed them to open at 7, that gives your band an opportunity to come at 6:30 and do their tune-ups or whatever they do, and then your hours would be 7 to 2 a.m. I mean, I would be fine with that. That would allow her and her business to finalize the day's business. Then that way y'all could get started. I mean, I would be okay with that.
I think that could be a good compromise. That way you get some hours extended as well.
that okay with y'all? Is that something you can live with?
Well, during the week, when we don't have a band, we don't have loud music playing, we have a jukebox. Our deal with opening at 6, because of COVID, we had to get the food and beverage. We have to sell a lot more food. If we open at 8 p.m., most people have already ate. So, I mean, you know, he smokes and, you know, we cook pizzas and all kinds of stuff. So that was, you know, we were trying to hit that dinner crowd, like they get off work, they want to go eat. I mean, there's no loud music during that. I mean, the TVs are playing that are in there. I mean, jukebox, you know, ball games.
What I see though is you do get patrons coming in about the same time that patrons are leaving hers.
Yep.
So, where there's children and things
Well,
like that that are coming out. So that's where
Keep in mind, we are located right across from a liquor store.
Yeah, Drake's Liquor is right across the street from us.
I think that's a little different when a liquor store is open all day versus you guys open at 6 and there's people waiting to come in when there's open and then people are coming out. I think that's a little different situation. I like the idea that Councilman Doty mentioned doing a compromise, maybe doing 7, so that it gives them time for their children to leave.
That way I think both of you give a little bit.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you. Anyone else here to speak on behalf of this agenda item? If not, the public hearing is closed. Discussion from council? A motion? Go ahead. I'm sorry, Brian.
Mr. and Mrs. Jenkins, I don't want y'all to miss out on opportunity. Would it help if, starting at 7, if on some of those other nights we allowed your CUP to stay open later until that 2 a.m. deadline? You don't have to stay open, but to where it was allowed to where you could expand into that. Would that help at all? Before we. Or not? Okay, I just wanted to throw it out there. Okay. Okay. Then I don't have anything further.
Well, I think we have to be able to coexist in the block, and I think we. Yes, Mr. Webb?
Well, I've had some experience with entertainment facilities, both indoor and outdoor, of trying to be good neighbors, where we found if we could limit the hours of operation for live performances, allow the business to open, but any live performance would not be allowed to, perform until 7 or 8 o'clock. And I don't know, Julie, if that's something that would be appropriate in the CUP. But I'm just saying historically, we've had the same issues in other cities I've worked with, and it was those live performances that created the problems. And we put hours of operation on that. The business could be open, could sell food, they could have the jukebox going. It's the live performances that created the problem. And so we would put the additional restrictions on just the hours of operation for live performances. Just something to think about.
I'd be okay with that.
So if we did that, would y'all be okay opening at 6, but that would probably be when y'all would have to do your sound checks, would be around then too if we did the live music at 8. So you would have people.
Most of our bands start at 8:30.
So that would work. Mr. Potter, do you think that would work for you if there was no live music? And if we kept the live music at the same time it has been? 8
Yeah, definitely. We've had experiences with them also having like a DJ starting at like 6:30 p.m. So that's also where you hear from the street. So not necessarily just live bands. But as a business grows, things change. They haven't had a DJ recently, but they have in the past. So that's my concern about in the future if they decide, we want to have a DJ, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, while we don't have live music on the weekends, that we would hear that as well.
Okay.
Do you have a concern about the, as I mentioned, the opening at 6 with patrons coming in at the same time as it opening at 6?
Yeah, we do have workshops sometimes from 6 to 8 p.m. Our general hours are, 12 to 6. But yeah, if the doors can be open so people don't have to be lined up outside and hanging out, I think that would be a good compromise with letting them in. So while our children and kids are coming out after classes and stuff like that.
I think that could actually help. Yeah, having it open. And I think too, just bringing it all up. Now we all know to better neighbors. A little quieter, that kind of thing. A or at least around each other's hours there. So I would be fine entertaining it as it was written, but put a live music, live entertainment. How would we do that, Julie?
I think live entertainment would be better, and then we could define entertainment to include bands, DJs, karaoke's, competitions, anything that is involving people doing something and performing other than the music's just on a jukebox or playing on the radio or something.
So did you get that, Mayor Pro Tem?
Do I have to define it in the motion? No, I just say live entertainment. Okay, good. I got most of it. So would Mr. and Mrs. Jenkins, would the hours that you had Thursday through Saturday, 8 to 2 for live entertainment work? And then the hours you're requesting work as well for everybody, right? Okay. I think I'm ready.
All right. Go for it.
Okay. Did we close the public hearing and everything? Are we good? Okay, let's do it. Okay. Mayor, I move to approve an ordinance for a conditional use permit amending the hours of operation for Red Rock Saloon to Sunday through Wednesday, 6 p.m. to 12 a.m., and Thursday through Saturday, 6 p.m. to 2 a.m., with live entertainment hours of Thursday through Saturday from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m.
Second.
There is a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Hander and a second by Councilmember Doty. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Item 5C, receive a report, hold a discussion, conduct a public hearing, and take action on an ordinance rezoning approximately 27.64 acres from the agricultural district and the single-family 7.5 district to a planned development overlay district for retail and multifamily uses on the east side of US 75, south of Crawford Street, case number 2021-126PD. Mr. Webb.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Very excited for this new project coming into the city. This will reflect a much larger phase 2 of the project that's currently under construction. It doesn't show in the aerial at the southwest corner of Lillis and Crawford Street, but that's part of the Midtown Westlake townhome development. They want to go to now a phase 2 development, which would encompass rezoning most of the property zoned agriculture with some single family bordering along Lillis. The plan, I think, is very well thought out. They want to rezone the area from the agricultural district to a PD to allow for local retail uses along 75. Appreciate the fact they worked with us on upgrading some of the standards of that local retail district as far as giving some additional landscape buffers. Plan shows that blue area, that's an optional zone in case you get a larger user. Some of the bigger box users want a larger depth. They want that 300-foot depth. So that is an optional area that should they get a specific user, it would allow them to expand into that area for that retail user without having to come back and amend the PD. And then the balance of the project are the townhomes. They are rental, so it's not exactly what I call a for sale product. There'll be mostly 2 units. There'll be some single units, but they are designed for rent. As I noted in the staff report, there's nothing to prevent them to achieve a condominium association where they could be sold in the future. But again, it's been a real pleasure working with their development team on this. It was reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission on September 28th, and you have a recommendation for approval as submitted. And just go through, there's some of the elevations that were in your packet of how these would look. Mayor, with that, I think the developer might want to add some comments unless you have any other questions of me.
Questions for Mr. Webb? This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on behalf of this agenda item? Yes, sir. Would you state your name and address for the record, please?
Sure. Hello, my name is Forrest Poole, and I am a partner at Preston Forest Capital, and our address is 13355 Noel Road, Suite 1100, Dallas, Texas. So we are very excited about this project. This started a little over 2 years ago when we began putting this land together, and this land was initially in the comprehensive plan for the city. It's multifamily is the intended future use of it, and while So I think the idea of multifamily brings some other things to mind. What we were looking at is really the land and what did it want to be. And if you know this land, our folks from Kimley Horn are here. I think they're here somewhere. Oh, they're there. Caitlin. If you know this land, it could be considered a civil engineer's dream or nightmare, depending on which way you look at it. It's on the hill coming down there by Lillis, and we were looking at it, and it's also covered with trees. It's beautiful, and we wanted to really capture what the land is and what it wants to be, and that's a more low-density type product than what you might think of with multifamily. Our goal with this is similar to what our Phase 1 up on the corner of Crawford and Lillis. It is a townhome type product, and the idea is you get all the convenience of a luxury apartment, but you get the privacy and space of a single-family home. And we are doing these build to rent, and we've had a lot of interest on the ones on the corner, way more than we thought that we would at this point, and we're hopefully wrapping those up here by the end of the year, starting of 2022. But yeah, we're really excited about this. Really appreciate the work that the city's put in. Appreciate the comments and guidance the city staff has given us, and we're ready to get started. So thank you again for your consideration of our PD, and we look forward to working with you further. And I'll answer any questions you have.
Questions for Mr. Poole? All right, thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
Jerry Wren, state your name and address for the record, please.
Once again, Jerry Wren, 1800 South Maurice, where I've been since 1989. I attended Hughes Junior High on Lillis Lane. It's now McDaniel. I taught at McDaniel for 2 years. I see nothing on there for traffic control. And believe me, you do not want to go through there if you don't have to drop a kiddo off. I see absolutely nothing to widen Lillis Lane. I see nothing about a four-way red light. A stop sign is not going to cut it at Lillis and Crawford. You're going to need traffic control and traffic signal. Also, if the big boxes don't come through and you've got the houses there, you're going to be building a sound barrier at your expense because the residents are going to start hooping if you don't have something to block that highway. All you have to do is drive down 75 and look at McKinney and you can see it. Those are your two major reasons. You're going to have noise that the people, they move in next to an airport, then they complain about the noise. You're going to have the same thing here. They're moving in next, and they're going to be complaining about the traffic because they can't get in and out to get their kiddos to school because there's no traffic control. That's what I got to say.
Thank you, sir. Jonathan Earnhardt. State your name and address for the record, please.
Jonathan Earnhardt, 110 South Houston, but mine wasn't on this item. It was actually on the 6A.
Well, you put 5C, Jonathan.
5, see, someone else wrote that. That's not my handwriting. You see how sloppy the rest of that is? Chris, did you write that? Hey, Chris. What? No, I put the 2833. So mine's on the next item.
Okay, well, you know what, Jonathan? I'll just call on you when we get to that item. How's that?
Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak on behalf of this agenda item? If not, the public hearing is closed. Discussion from council.
Well, I have a question for Mr. Poole. To your point about traffic control, have you all looked at that? Because you've got a lot of buildings in that area, and then it looks like there's 2 exits and 2 entrances. I'm sure you've had some kind of engineering study done to look at what that might entail, along with the school traffic on Crawford. So if you would address that, I'd appreciate it. Sure.
So in regards to traffic, we've looked at this with our folks with Kimley Horn, and also this came up in the P&Z meeting as well. And we believe with the density of those residents and with the 2 exits, we think that the 75 access road exit is going to be the primary entrance, egress, and ingress and egress point for this development. We don't see it being a major burden on Lillis Lane. And I think he was referencing Crawford and Lillis, which is actually not part of this PD.
Both of those, because you're gonna have people that don't wanna come off that highway, and like that, stop signs at the entrance ramps and exit ramps, and that's a shorter way. It's also how you get downtown. Crawford Street, the main thoroughfare comes downtown from that area.
So, yeah.
Continue.
Well, yeah, but as far as the frontage on with the retail and the commercial frontage, we don't see a issue that all complies with the TxDOT standards and the city standards for traffic.
Thank you.
I think a big thing too is when you start throwing around big box retailer, people think Walmart, something big like that. But if you look at this, the biggest one I see is about 20,000 square feet. A Walmart is 180,000 square feet. So this is not going to be a super target plopped right there that's going to create a huge traffic nightmare, I don't think. And I do believe that they're going to use the entrance on that access road a lot more than the one out onto Lillis. And like you said, Crawford at the intersection of Crawford at Lillis is ours. That's not a developer's thing to address. So we'll get there as we grow.
Any other discussion from council? A motion?
Mayor, I move to approve an ordinance rezoning approximately 27.64 acres from the agricultural district and the single-family 7.5 district to a planned development overlay district for retail and multifamily uses on the east side of US 75 south of Crawford Street.
Second.
There is a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Hander and a second by Councilmember Crawley. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item 6A, receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on an ordinance amending section 28.26, section 28.33, section 28.46, section 28.49, and section 28.63 of chapter 28, the comprehensive zoning ordinance, case number 2021-064Z0. Mr. Webb.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you know, the Planning Zoning Commission held a public hearing, received quite a bit of input. They put a lot of thought into that. They gave you their recommendation, and of course, the City Council also, in accordance with state law, you held a public hearing, received input, and then closed the public hearings. I'm not going to go through all the details. I think we pretty much know what this is about. I just want to touch on the changes that have come out since then. Previously, the recommendation was that there be certain uses prohibited in the Highway Overlay District. The amendment is that they would be permitted by CUP, and those being the uses that are on the slide today. This is very common land use principles that are used throughout the North Texas area. Cities, as you know, by right, have under state law, and it's been also granted by the U.S. Supreme Court, the ability to regulate land uses. And I think the trick is, what is a fair and reasonable use of those regulation, that authority. I can tell you that in the North Texas area, the cities that probably did not exercise good judgment and did not exercise proper land use planning and wanted to grow for the sake of growth, those are probably now some of the less desirable cities to live into. And probably more importantly, they have the highest tax rate. They were not a sustainable city. Cities that used, I think, reasonable judgment on how to implement their zoning ordinance, how to determine how many land uses were appropriate, what is the right balance. I think you'll see in the North Texas area, those are the cities that people want to live in, and also they want to stay in. So as I was tasked to go through our development codes, I felt like the Denison zoning ordinance was really something that was probably anywhere from 30 to 40 years outdated. In many cases, it was not allowing uses in certain areas that probably could use, such as the light industrial district. As you know, the light industrial market has changed over the years. We have a lot of properties in the city where we need some more flexibility for those uses to come in, and that's why staff is recommending that retail uses be in that. There's been some conversation about prohibiting residential districts in the office district. The way that district was originally written, it was intended that you would have a live, work, walkable community. Well, that's what the downtown Denison is. It is a true live, work, walkable area. But an office district, off in a remote area where you have no land use controls and a multifamily development could come in and add 20 units per acre into a neighborhood that's not be able to support 20 units per acre, that's not good land use planning. And again, that's where you would come in with the planned development district on that. So Mayor, again, I think we've gone through some of the background and proposals for that. I'd be glad to answer any questions you have. I think what we have tonight is a good compromise. I think it's good for the city. Again, I base this on what I've observed in Denison, what has worked and can work in Denison, and what has worked throughout the North Texas area. And I think it's a very reasonable ordinance, and I think it sets us on the right path.
Questions for Mr. Webb? Thank you. All right, Mr. Earnhardt, state your name and address for the record, please.
Jonathan Earnhardt, 110 South Houston Avenue, Denison, Texas. I'm actually for the office district change. I mean, we're actually doing some in there that we are building residential and office. It's not necessarily needed in office, but it's what it is. But a big problem could be someone come in, build 20 units, you don't have the infrastructure, and you're almost stuck paying for it because it is allowed to put it in there. So I do think it does need to be corrected. The problem I see are the ones that are already in there, the residential units that are in there right now. Whether we give some sort of option that is paid for by the city to zone change those. Like I said, we just did 510 North Houston. We were 3 days from closing. The appraisal noted that it was non-conforming use. We had to go and take 60 days to move it and had to pay to move it, so it definitely costs money for the person. So if you're turning these residentials to non-conforming use, it's going to cost them money and time. So I think it's something the city should, whether it's just for a time limit or anything, make it where they can apply for the correct zoning and get theirs corrected. So that's all I have on that one. On the car dealerships and the restricted uses, one of my concerns was now we put in for the restricted uses in the zoning where it wasn't in that when it went to planning and zoning, so they never got to see that, or if they did, it wasn't in a public hearing that anybody got to speak on. So the COUPs or anything, directions like that, we were told that it was going to be on last council hearing, so people were expected to come to that one, not this one. So they were not able to attend because, of course, they find last minute. And then a lot of people watch the planning and zoning to see it back on there. It never did come back on there. So it was really, wasn't enough time for people to give their input on that. There are a few people here that really stayed on top of it, but there are some that are there. I think I'm all for planning and development, and I think y'all have done a great job, but when we completely take by right, it makes it hard for a dealer or anybody to come in and do anything. You can say they'll plan and look, but if they look at the property in Sherman and it's already by right, they can build on the highway there, it's obviously the easier choice and where that will go. It is a way, it will drive them out. So I think there's got to be some by right in some areas, whether we limit it in certain areas and allow it in others. But by right is a big thing when we go to rent a property or build something on it. If it's not by right, it's hard. It's going through a conditional use and it's extra work, and sometimes it doesn't fit their timelines, especially on rental properties. That's where it becomes the biggest issue. When you're building, that's a whole nother story. So those are my concerns on it, and just would like to see this actually go to planning and zoning as it rewritten so we can have more time and more people can have input. That's it.
Okay.
Thank y'all.
Very much. Julie, when an item comes from P&Z, it's not required to go back to P&Z. When it comes to the council does not have to accept P&Z's recommendation, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So there was never any intent for it to go back to P&Z. Discussion from council.
I think tonight we saw how the conditional use permit process works, and how we're able to compromise with with the owners and with neighboring businesses and whoever that may be, interested parties, to create a solution that's going to work well for everyone. And I think everyone really ended up leaving happy from that. And I think this is going to work well as that did.
Discussion from council. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I move to approve the ordinance amending section 28.26, section 28.33, section 28.46, section 28.49, and section 28.63 of chapter 28, the comprehensive zoning ordinance.
Second.
There is a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Hander and a second by Councilmember Doty. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 6B, receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on an ordinance amending section 2-46 residency requirements for certain appointees of chapter 2 administration and section 5-205 building appeals board created of chapter 5 buildings and building regulations of the code of ordinances by amending the requirement for certain members of the building appeals board to be residents of the city of Denison. Mr. Webb.
Thank you, Mayor.
Ooh, that was a mouthful.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This actually was a request by the building official to bring this forward. As you know, on our boards and commissions, there's a requirement to be a resident of the city of Denison. And on almost all of those boards, that certainly works well. It ensures that, our boards are you get the input from people who have that vested interest in the city by being a resident. The Building Board of Appeals is a little different in that, not only is it a 7-member board appointed by the council, it requires that certain licensed trades be on the board, and that being a licensed realtor, a master electrician, a master mechanical contractor, and a master plumbing contractor. And the reason that's on there, and it's very important, is that this board really gets in the weeds. It gets in the details on 2 issues. One could be a variance where a developer contractor says, hey, I can build the building, but there's some part of the plumbing code that I don't think is fair, that I can't meet, or I have an alternative plan to that. It's important that I've got a licensed plumber on the board. He knows that information. He knows the code. And I think that's why this board is very important, because you can appeal the decision of the building official and have it heard by people that know your profession. Probably more importantly is, as we update our building codes probably about every 3 to 4 years, it goes through a tremendous amount of scrutiny. We have a standard code that comes out of the COG, and then we have amendments where we either add or subtract to. Again, it's very important that we have people with the knowledge of the electrical code, the plumbing code, the mechanical code. Problem we're running into is finding those people in the city of Denison. And if we do find them, are they willing to serve or not? So what we've recommended is that we allow for you to go through a series of steps. And again, the council has the discretion on the final authority who they appoint. But, our proposal is that we certainly, try to find a resident first. If not, hopefully we can find somebody in the ETJ, somebody who owns a business in the city but may not live in the city, and finally somebody in the county. And speaking with Betty, she feels like if we could go through those steps, that would certainly give her the ability to find those qualified people on there. And again, you have the final discretion on who you appoint to that. But it's critical that right now we have a vacancy that we just cannot fill. I'm concerned that we'd have an application come by and I don't have that licensed person. So again, I know it's always a desire to have Denison residents serve on the boards, and we will certainly strive to try to find those people. But if not, we would like to at least go through these steps to have the alternative to bring these other tradespeople on the board.
Questions for Mr. Webb? Discussion from council?
I like that we can extend it into our ETJ or someone that has a business in Denison. If they're just a resident of Grayson County, it kind of worries me a little bit. Only because it's someone from the outside that doesn't have necessarily skin in the game here in Denison that's gonna be possibly imposing something on someone from Denison or looking to develop in Denison. So I would rather us just see 1 through 3 to start and see how that goes. And if it's absolutely just can't, then we could go. But those are my thoughts.
I forgot to add one other thing. Regardless of where they are, they too have to be licensed to do work in the city. So they will have knowledge of our codes, because to serve on the board, Betty wants them to be licensed, to be a licensed contractor with the city. So they will be licensed with us and be registered with the city.
That does make me feel a little better. It's a little more at ease. What do y'all think?
You're okay with all 4?
I'm
As long as they have to be licensed.
licensed.
If they're licensed, that makes me feel
Yes.
better. If they're licensed
With the
contractor
city,
with the city.
yes.
Any further discussion from council? A motion.
Mayor, I move to adopt the ordinance amending section 2-46, residency requirements for certain appointees of chapter 2 administrations, and section 5-205, the Building Appeals Board created of chapter 5 building and building regulations of the Code of Ordinances by amending the requirement for certain members of the Building Appeals Board to be residents of the city of Denison.
Second.
There is a motion by Councilmember Crawley and a second by Councilmember Courtright. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 6C, receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on a resolution granting approval for the city manager or his designee to enter into various loan documents with Trust Bank, previously Branch Banking and Trust Company, for a Vector-mounted ramjet unit on a 4x4 truck in the amount of $211,748.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having me this evening. I'll try to shed a little more light on this unit for you. A ramjet unit purchase was approved last November 16th, 2020, council meeting. Production of the unit has been delayed due to the manufacturer's inability to get needed parts. The unit is approaching completion and delivery. And so we're here to present council with a resolution to move forward with this loan from Truist Bank. They used to be BB&T. As you can see, they're previously Branch Banking and Trust Company. But I will explain what a ramjet unit is, just to jog your memory. This is a high-demand piece of specialty equipment needed in responding to sewer stops. And those calls require rapid response, and so it'll be a great thing for our city. But just wanted to talk to you about the quotes that came in. Okay, we had 3 institutions to submit bids for the loan that we are going to get. Truist Bank came in at the lowest interest rate at 1.06%. It is a 5-year loan, and that has been budgeted in this year's budget. So staff recommends approval, and I stand available for any questions.
Questions for Ms. Wagner? Discussion from council? A motion?
Mayor, I move to adopt the resolution granting approval for the city manager or his designee to enter into various loan documents from Truist Bank, formerly Branch Banking and Trust Company, for a Vector-mounted ramjet unit for the Utilities Division in the principal amount of $211,748, subject to final legal review and approval.
Second.
There is a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Hander and a second by Councilmember Courtright. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 6D, thank you, Renee. Item 6D, receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on awarding the bid to 5W Contracting LLC for the 2021 Fall Overlay Program in the amount of $441,567 and authorize the city manager to enter into a contract. Ms. Jones.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. There is one thing that I would like to point out on this agenda item. So you'll notice in your packet that the motion does say $158 per ton. It was specifically written that way, even though the agenda item does read $441,000. The contractor, the tonnage changed. We bid it out correctly, but the tonnage changed. And so we also work with the contractor to make sure that if there's any soft spots in the subgrade, that they fix those at that $158 per ton. And so we made the motion to be $158, but the actual dollar amount is $532,934. So that is the full 3,373 tons that was bid out for this project. So I did want to put that out there early on in this presentation. So this is our annual maintenance program that we do every year. This year we did choose to do a full width mill on 25 streets, 25 blocks and 1 parking lot, which is approximately 1.8 center lane miles. And it will be, as I said, about 3,300 tons of asphalt that will be laid on this during this program. So the streets were chosen mainly on the east side of town. There's one down by the hospital, Jerry Gary, that if you've driven to the hospital, it's not in the best of shape. So that one will get taken care of as well. So we did bid out this program on September 4th, and we opened up the bids on September 20th. And 5W Contracting came in at the lowest bid at $158 per ton. The second contractor came in at $165 per ton. This is a budgeted item in the street improvement fund, and so we budgeted $550,000 for this program, anticipating a little bit higher of a bid. So we will have hopefully some savings depending on how many soft spots the contractor finds once that mill begins. So with that, this is our normal overlay program for the street maintenance. Any questions?
Questions for Ms. Jones? Thank you. Discussion from council? A motion?
I move to award the bid to 5W Contracting LLC for a cost of $158 per ton for the 2021 Fall Overlay Program and authorize the city manager to execute the same.
Second.
There is a motion by Councilmember Courtright and a second by Councilmember Crawley. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Item 6E, receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on the purchase of a patch truck in the amount of $203,036 from Kenlock Equipment and Supply, Inc. for street maintenance, and authorize the city manager to execute any associated documents. Ms. Jones.
Good evening again. So street maintenance is obviously a hot topic right now, and so our current patch truck that we run is a 1994 model. It has served us well, but it is time that we get something that works a little better. To help, this will assist us in patching potholes and utility cuts throughout town. It also will be able to keep asphalt hot overnight, so if we end the day with asphalt left inside the truck, we'll be able to plug it in and we'll be able to use that asphalt again. So one thing with our current patch truck is it is not very reliable. So we a lot of times buy asphalt from RK Hall because of the proximity. However, they're not always open when we need asphalt, so outside of RK Hall, we have to go to Durant or Salina. Our patch truck right now is pretty iffy if it'll make it all the way there and back, so this particular truck will serve all of the needs that our staff has of fulfilling patching potholes and utility cuts. So staff did go through a spec bid process and talked with multiple companies, and this particular one came in, and it's available now, which is a rarity right now. So this one also comes with a 5-year bumper-to-bumper warranty and a buyback option at the end of 5 years, a guaranteed price of $59,000 that they would buy it back from, as long as there's no operational problems with it. So from a financial standpoint, it is a very lucrative option, and we do have this also budgeted out of our street improvement fund for fiscal year 22. Any questions?
Questions for Ms. Jones? Thank you. Discussion from council? A motion.
Mayor, I move to approve the purchase of a patch truck from Kenlock Equipment and Supply, Inc. for street maintenance for a total amount of $203,036 and authorize the city manager to execute any associated documents.
Second.
There is a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Hander and a second by Councilmember Doty. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. There being no need for an executive session and no further business to come before this body. The time is 7:25 and we are adjourned.